Hello everyone. So today I'm going to present a systemic social innovation that I believe it's important in society, focusing on Nrdc, which stands for Natural Resources Defense Counseling. This organization works to safeguard the earth, its people, its plants and animals, and the natural systems on which all life depends. More than thousands and tens of thousands of rhinos and elephants are killed each year to feed demand for ivory and rhino horn. The international trade in elephants, rhino, and other species is the second largest threat of the wildlife for habitat loss. If the market continues to drive poaching, both rhinos and elephants could vanish from the wild as early as 2034. Nrdc works in the United States and abroad to shield these two species from threat of extinctions. We address both the supply and demand side of wildlife trade. Through raw ivory comes predominantly from Africa. Many items from them are crafted in East Asia and in particular with China. Now let's discuss about the 5R framework before. So in terms of resources, the biggest impacts are from the government and the national parks, and of course the animal protection organizations. The rules are mostly from poachers and hunters, and of course from rangers and lifeguards are protecting the parks. In relationship, it's happening a lot with the government and the park rangers. There's also many relationship with poachers and locals that supports the poaching. There's also a big relationship with the rangers and the wildlife. The rules are lack of surveillance in the wildlife and the not enough workforce, the rarity of the ivory and the preciousness, and as a result is the protection of the endangered species, the preserved natural of habitats, and safe place for local populations. The 5 R's framework of the after changes a bit. The resources stays approximately the same from the government and national parks and local agencies, but the rules are a bit different. Lobbies have more interest due to the legislations and law being applied. Poachers and hunters have different capacities than before due to the restriction being approved. There's a bigger relationship with the government and the park rangers that are helping saving the wildlife. In terms of rules, there are more restrictions which have more negative consequences on the poachers and hunters, which therefore makes them less likely to poach. And as a result, there's more protection from the endangered species, there's a better preservation of the natural habitat, and it's a safer place for local population that wasn't there before. Now we're going to focus on the iceberg model, which will help us shift our perspectives from the event to the mental model. So everything starts with poachers killing elephants and rhino for their ivory, which creates more trade of ivory, less restrictions for poachers, and of course everything creates less tourism because tourists are scared. In terms of patterns, tourists are scared, so every year there's less tourism and more poaching because of high prices. Then those are influenced by the structure, which poacher make a lot of money off, and buyers thinks it's a beautiful decoration to have ivory, and everything is believed due to the rarity and the preciousness of ivory and its exotic forms from animals. The 4 leverage points, to the most current to the deeper leverage point. Starting with material, restricting the parts of the park to tourism to have less poachers. Then in processes, to have more patrols and more rangers in the park to have the park more safe and protected. In terms of processes, creating laws on restricting the import-export of ivory and all its trades, and as a last alternative, cutting the horns of the animals in order to not kill the animals from poachers and to save their lives. Archetypes. Shift in burden. Restriction and load on ivory trades create less poaching, which less poaching makes ivory more precious, which leads then to more poaching because it is more precious, so the demand is higher, and this is a shift in burden. Then, archetype number 6, success to successful. Law on ivory trade create high risk for poachers because of punishments and fines or prison sentences, which creates less poaching, which creates more laws, which, coming to the other side, protects the wildlife, and the wildlife adds more tourism, and tourism creates more laws on ivory and becomes a success to the successful cycle.